If you need fun, beautiful, and delicious looking birthday cards, Waffle Flower has everything you need this month. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video, I'll be sharing some of the March 2025 Hey Cupcake release from Waffle Flower. Let's take a look at the supplies that I'll be using today. Before we jump into the supplies, I did want to remind you that Waffle Flower has offered a 10% off your entire purchase at waffleflower.com if you haven't used my coupon yet. So my coupon code is Rebecca, and it's one time per customer, but it's out there if you haven't used it yet. First up this month, Waffle Flower has the Postage Collage Cupcake Stencils. I know a lot of you are big fans of the Postage Collage stencils. This is a really fun one. There are cupcakes, a birthday present, confetti, and candles. These are so easy to use, and they make the look of different postage stamps all collaged together. This is the Postage Collage birthday stamp set. This set will work with any of your Postage Collage stencils, but it works great with the birthday one. This is the Confetti background stencil. It's a layering stencil set that creates multicolor looks of confetti. There are little stars. It's a very great birthday themed stencil, but you could also use it for other celebrations. This is the Sweet Cupcake Die. I'll show you how this all gets put together, but there's also a Sweet Cupcake stencil. It combines perfectly with the die and will help you color in. So if you die cut out white cardstock, you can color it all in with the stencil. This is the Postage Cupcake Die and stencil. And lastly, we have the Sweet Birthday Sentiments, stamps, and dies. You'll notice there are little numbers there. I'll show you a number on the die in a second. That makes it really easy to find the die that you're looking for to match up to the sentiment, which I think is brilliant because then you don't have to try a bunch of different dies with your stamp. Here is the little die cuts that you can get with the Subsentiments. Now let's use those supplies to make some fun birthday cards. First, I'm using the Postage Collage Die. This was previously released. This cuts out a perfect background for all of the Postage Collage A2 stencils. So it's a horizontal format, and you can see that there are little dots in between the stamps, and you could break them apart if you wanted to, or you can keep them all together as a collage. Usually I like to use the small shader brushes for these stencils, but I decided to make it a little bit easier and to stick to just a few colors. So each stencil, I'm basically using just one color. There are a couple later on that I'll use more than one color, but for this first stencil, I'm using Distress Oxide Spun Sugar, and I'm using the Waffle Flower blending brushes. And underneath that cardstock, I have my Waffle Flower grip mat. It holds the cardstock in place, and it places perfectly down on my glass mat and will stay in place on that as well. So the second layer, I used all salvaged patina Distress Oxide. Here I'm using Mowed Lawn for some of the elements, and then also antique linen for the cupcake element to make the cake aspect of those cupcakes. And then I have some Kitsch Flamingo. It's a slightly darker pink than that spun sugar, so it's a great accent over that lighter pink. And then just some squeezed lemonade for the candle flames. That was so easy to pull together. Just a bunch of ink blending, and look at how cute that is. But then combine it with the postage stamp set, the birthday stamp set. And I love stamping with these stamp sets over some of the elements of that postage stencil background that we created. And to do that, I use VersaFine Black Onyx ink. Because it's a pigment ink, it'll sit on top of the Distress Oxide ink, and you'll be able to see it real clearly. This is the Postage Collage Blocks dies, and this will create just a background right outside of the postage collage. So you'll see that little hint of light blue in the dots that are poked out in between the stamps. It is not A2 though. So then you'll put it on an A2 piece of cardstock in the background. And I love that double matte look. It looks so cute. To finish this off with a little shine and embellishment, I'm adding some Waffle Flower candy dots. I absolutely love these colors. They are fun and bright, and there's a bunch that you can choose from to add to whatever you're working on. For this next card, I'm starting with the Sweet Cupcake die. Like I mentioned before, I'm cutting all of the elements out of white cardstock, and then I'll place them down on my grip mat, and I'll grab the Sweet Cupcake stencils and some more Distress Oxide inks and those Waffle Flower blending brushes again. So I have Shaded Lilac for the frosting of the cupcake and Kitsch Flamingo for the cupcake wrapper. These are really easy stencils. You just have to slide them up or down depending on which part of the cupcake you're working on. And you'll see that when you do that, there's a layer in between that will mask off so you don't get color where you don't want it. So here I'm adding the darker swirl to the frosting with Wilted Violet Distress Oxide ink. And then I'll add for the cupcake liner, those stripes, or it's showing where there's little folds in the cupcake liner. That's Picked Raspberry, a darker pink, even than Kitsch Flamingo. So again, just slide the stencil up or down depending on what you're working on. Here I'm adding the cake, and I'm using Catherine Pooler's Cashmere ink to create the look of the cupcake itself. And then for the sprinkles, I'll just once again shift that stencil down so that the sprinkles are all over the frosting, and I'll use some Altenew Shimmer Relief paste. This is the white, it's kind of a shimmery white, and I'll use a little bit on a palette knife and just spread it until it's a nice even consistency. I don't want it too thick because then it just takes too long to dry, but I do want to add a little bit of dimension and shine with those sprinkles, so I need to set that aside to dry while I work on the rest. Here is the little cherry that you can create, and I'm using Lumberjack Plaid Distress Oxide ink for that, and this time, because it's a small cherry and small stem and leaf, I'm using some of the shader brushes to get in there, and for this one, I just wanted to use that blending brush since I already had it out with Mowed Lawn. And then there's also a candle, and it's a striped candle. So again, 2 pinks for that striped candle, and then the squeezed lemonade for the flame, and then a slightly darker orange for the center of that flame. These elements will all go to the cupcake. So I'll adhere the cherry and the stem together. There's a little slit in the top of the cherry. Just slide the stem in and then adhere from the back. And I'm using a foam square to do that because I like to pop up my elements. For the candle, there are lines cut out of the frosting. That way you could snip them and do 2 different colors of cardstock, or you can slide the candle in and adhere it on the back. I used that Sweet Sentiments stamp set to stamp Happy Birthday in black ink, and then I cut my white cardstock down to 4 by 5 1/4 to mat it on some pink cardstock. I'll pop up the entire cupcake and then cut out that Happy Birthday sentiment and pop that up on top. I absolutely love how easy this cupcake is to put together, but it is just so cute as well. I decided to add some glossy accents to the candle and to the cherry just to have a little extra shine because the rest of the card is all that white space. I thought a little bit of dimension and shine on those 2 elements would be a really fun extra little bit of interest to add to this card, but just some ink blending and stamping and die cutting, and you can create the cutest cupcake. It looks delicious. For this card, I'll use that layered stencil set that creates the confetti background. I'm starting with Spun Sugar Distress Oxide ink, and there you can see that layer. The second layer, I'll use Kitsch Flamingo, and once again, I'm using those larger blending brushes from Waffle Flower because I'm covering the entire stencil with one color. Doesn't make sense to bring out the smaller shader brushes for that. For this layer, I'm using Distress Oxide in Blueprint Sketch. I love the look of Kitsch Flamingo and Blueprint Sketch together. The pink and the dark blue to me is such a fun look, and it's just a little bit different than what I normally do. So I wanted to have a different color combination for this card. Here's to a Sweet Day is the sentiment that I'll use, and I will die cut that out. I love having the dies for sentiments so that I can pop them up. And then I have some spun sugar for that little postage circle cupcake. This is one of the freebies. You can buy this die, but if you spend a certain amount at Waffle Flower, you can use a code and get it for free. So the stencil lines up with the inside circle that is kind of like a faux stitch look, and that's how you line it up. It's one stencil, but it's got 5 different elements on it, and it creates the cutest little layered Cupcake. I thought that since the edge is a postage cut edge, it'd be fun to use one of the original Postage Collage stamp sets to add a little 30 cents marker, and then the birthday Postage Collage stamp set to add HBD. So this time I wanted to use that double mat that I had from the first card again. So the blue cardstock is A2, the pink is cut to 4 by 5 1/4, and then the stenciled is cut just a 1/4 inch smaller on both sides than that. So this way you get those double mat with the different colors, the pink and the blue. I am adding some of those candy dots again just for a little bit of extra embellishment here, but love that little stamp in the center, and the sentiments are so much fun and great to pop up as well. I don't know about you, but I love all the stamps, dies, and stencils from this amazing birthday release from Waffle Flower, but I'd love to hear if anything caught your eye. Let me know in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. I don't know why I gotta pause in between the words. Mouth hasn't caught up to my brain. I don't know. One of those.